What does the phrase "beat Army" mean to you, and how has that maybe changed for you since your first time coaching the Army Navy game?
I don't think it's changed. I guess I'm lying. It has changed. Just recognizing the significance of it from the first time I was here. I knew it was important when I first got here in '95, but being here for 21 years, you recognize really what it means to the school, everybody associated with the school, all the graduates, everybody's here. But this "beat Army" means everything.
And, I'm writing about Bennett Martin, and obviously this game poses a significance to him. How do you think he's developed as a kid between last year and this year?
He's had a great year. He's had a great year, kicked the ball well for us. And I told him if we're in that same situation, I'm not going to hesitate. We're going to kick the ball again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if we are in the exact same situation, I'll do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. Looking back on this 4 years, how has he contributed? How has he changed the way that Navy plays?
Scott, is he overall scoring leader or just extra point?
He is overall as a kicker.
For a kicker. Most points by a kicker.
Fifth for all positions, first as a kicker.
So, as a kicker, he's scored more points than anybody's been here. So, shows you the significance he's had. His program. He's had a phenomenal career.
Yeah. Influence, his personality. What kind of effect does he have in the locker room?
He's a great leader. He's been super positive. Even after last year, I remember in the locker room after, he was sad for not being able to do that for the team. He's apologizing to other people, and he's just a selfless kid. And, I actually hope we're in the same situation because I know he's going to make it.
I saw you congratulating Sean Williams. Is it any news that you could share with us, or is it private?
It's just I did a bad job. I didn't mention that he was honorable mention all conference.
Okay.
Our lone representative.
Would you like to see him be able to get invited to one of these senior all-star games? Because I think he's a deserving kid for that, don't you?
It would be awesome, Wags, if he gets invited. He's been a great role model, great leader, and it'd be cool for him to finish out his career after this game, after this win. And
Adam,
would it mean anything more than usual to win against Army on a year that didn't go how everybody on this campus maybe hoped it would have gone?
Yeah, this game is always everything, and like you said, one game changes everything. That's the way we're looking at it. One game changes the whole season.
Were you surprised at how well Army had a good season?
No, they've done a good job. They've done a good job. They've programmed their deal well, the way they've done things, and they've had a good season.
Just wanted to talk a little bit about the Army offense. Let's they have been so effective running the ball, and Coach Ken was telling me that they really have developed a power running style and they feature the fullback and the quarterback between the tackles. Can you just discuss what you're seeing out of Army?
Yeah, their O-line comes off low and hard, and it's a real tough group. I think their center's a really, really good player.
Yeah.
Quarterback runs hard. They got 3 B-backs that all run hard. You're gonna have to keep your pads down and go. They do a nice job. So, they're satisfied with 3.5 yards a time. They'll go for it on 4th down. So, they're going to make it a long game, and they don't turn the ball over. I think they've turned it over 10 times and only lost 4 this year. I think it was the same for them last year. So, they're not turning the ball over. They're eating up a bunch of clock. So they're doing a really nice job.
So, how do you challenge your front 7, because that's where the game's going to be won? You can't let them push you off the ball. How do you challenge your front 7? What do you tell them that they have to do in this game?
Well, it's just you got to match their physicality. Across the board, even the secondary, their receivers are tenacious blockers. They come after you. They hang on. They're going to keep fighting. It's just we have to match their physicality. You have to have great eyes to start with, and then. You have to knock them back. They're trying to knock you back. You got to knock them back. It's going to be a physical battle.
Coach Niumat said that they're not dealing the ball as much in order to cut down on turnovers, because that's something that got them early in Coach Monken's tenure. And I think he's decided he's going to just give it to the fullback or run the quarterback and then have a little less of dealing to the pitches and whatnot to cut down on the fumble. So do you see that, Dale?
Yeah, they're not pitching as much. They're getting it to them in different ways. They still have the toss play, which is pretty safe. They have they'll throw it out there to guys and try to get in a one-on-one situation. So they're still finding ways to get it to the edge, but primarily they're going to run the quarterback and the B-backs.
Can you talk about how this game tends to be played in a phone booth? It's a real fist fight, and I think Navy likes that. I think this suits your team. Don't you feel like this is the kind of game your defense likes to play?
Yeah, I mean, I think you put us together. It's hard to tell us apart. You know, a lot of things they do, we do, both defensively, offensively. So it won't be really out scheming anybody. It's just going to be out playing somebody.
I wanted to ask you, your dad, or is it your dad that's a Purple Heart recipient?
Yes, sir.
Kind of tell me a little bit about what you know about his service.
Well, I know he was in the Army. I don't really know a lot of details, but I know that he lost his leg in Iraq. I think it was blown up in the back of a Humvee by a grenade that was thrown in there. And I know that after it all went down, after his leg had already been blown off, he had fired a couple of shots back at the enemy before, passing out. So I've always looked up to my stepdad in many different ways. Like he's so knowledgeable in different aspects of life. Like when it comes to electronics, school, education, even home building. If one of our computers gets messed up, he doesn't take it to the shop. He just looks up and does it himself. We need a patio in the backyard. I mean, he gets the foundation done, but he makes the water drain. He makes the water for the plants, and he plants the yard. Like that's the kind of stuff I look up to.
He's a man's man.
He's a man's man. That's the guy I look up to for real.
Well, so I mean, obviously, he's a war hero. Did that at all influence your decision to go into a service academy?
It did in its own way, more in the aspect of how he is as a person. So me, I never had any drive to go and serve in the military. But when I did get offered by Navy, and I was looking at all my options and seeing which school that I was the best fit for me, I looked at how the kind of person my stepdad was and how he got there. And it was the military. It shaped him into the kind of guy he is. And I kind of would have followed that same path. So that did actually help me in my decision making.
Did Army recruit you?
They did.
So he's an Army man. I mean, that he had to have been like, you think about Army?
Surprisingly, don't tell him I told you this, everybody's going to know. He was not fond of Army as much as he was of Navy or Air Force, yeah. But when I was a kid, not when I was a kid, but our family travels a lot. And I like the water in Texas. We're in the middle of Texas, so we don't really see the water that much. So Navy kind of jumped at me more than the other service academy did.
Right.
Traveling jumped at me more than the other service academy did. And that's what kind of pushed me more and more towards Navy over the others.
It'd be a different experience.
Yeah.
Right. But all in all, your stepfather's a tremendous man, right?
Tremendous man.
And does he talk much about his experiences in the war? Because I can imagine it's pretty traumatic. It's not something that, but at the same time, I mean, you could be in harm's way, so it might be something he could pass along some advice.
He doesn't talk about it that much. He's kind of like, don't. He doesn't. If you don't ask him, he's not gonna tell you about it. But you can tell by his actions how he is in person. So that's kind of how he doesn't talk about it all the time. But if he's asked, he will tell you about it. He's not afraid to talk about it.
Well, I was going to ask you about your parents being Army. Tell me what you know about their service, both your mother and father.
Well, I was born pretty late in both their careers, so I don't know much. I didn't move around a lot as a kid.
You did not?
No, I did not. My mother was out when I was born, and my father, he was overseas a lot. I remember when I was a kid going to parades and him working on his uniform in the garage and stuff like that. So I don't remember much, but I grew up on a base. I was born on a base.
You don't remember which one?
Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay, that's right. I knew that. Right.
Yes, sir.
So I was curious. When I read that, I was wondering, Navy played at Western Kentucky a couple times. I was there. Do you remember going to the game at all?
Not at all, no.
I didn't. Right near there, right?
It's pretty close, but it's not close enough for me to just travel over to the game. But
right.
No, I don't remember.
You weren't a big Western Kentucky fan?
No, not at all.
So did either of your parents talk much about their time in the service?
Oh, they did. Especially when I was expressing my interest in going in the military. So they gave me some advice. The goods and the bads, the pros and cons of what they knew about the Army and all the other services. So they definitely helped me in that aspect.
So, being that they're both Army, wouldn't they wanted you to go to Army?
Surprisingly, no. Through their experiences, they didn't want me to, go through some of the stuff they went through. They saw, like Hawaii and Florida, and they just thought that would fit me better as a person.
And so really, it came down more to Air Force and Navy for you, did it not?
It did. My dad was pushing for that, for those two. My mom really liked Navy, so I really liked Navy, so that's where I ended up going. So
do you think it's interesting that you ended up following in the footsteps of your parents? They were military, and you probably didn't ever think for most of your life that you would serve in the military as well.
Well, surprisingly, I thought I would.
You did? Okay.
I'm the only one out of 6 kids to even think about doing it, so yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Never thought about that.
So can you talk about what the Army-Navy game means to you? And I mean, it's got to be really unique considering that your parents are Army and now you're Navy.
Right. My parents are Army. I come from an Army town pretty much, so I grew up around it all my life. Especially what happened last year, tough game, tough loss, and just the culture and the history of the game. It's a huge game. And when you come here, that's all you know. That's all they preach is beat Army. So it's a huge game.
So back in the days when you were on base and young kid, did you used to root for Army or have to root for Army?
I never really paid attention to the Army-Navy game as a kid. I would watch it, but I never really rooted for one team or the other. So I can't say I did. No.